Let me bring in to discuss criminal defense attorney Lara Yeretsian. Lara, always appreciate having you on the show and being able to pick your brain about cases like this one that are really, really tough for the defense. Tell me, as you're watching this, what, if anything, can they do with these bad facts when you have these video interrogations coming in and we're hearing the defendant describe what occurred in his own words, and it is really, really helpful to the state? How do you defend it?
I mean, there's different ways of defending. As far as the statements go, some of the statements, as I was listening to them, it sounds like he's got slurred speech. It's very tough to understand what he's saying. So he may not be in his right state of mind, and they could possibly explain him away, some of the inconsistencies based on his, what was going on with him mentally, that he wasn't in the right state of mind. Maybe he was drugged. He's in the hospital, and I'm sure they might have tried to get these thrown out before the trial. And clearly, if they did have an eliminate motion prior to the trial, it didn't go their way, because we're listening and we can hear these statements. But they can still bring evidence to show that he was in a hospital, and that may have impacted his ability to talk. Some of the other facts that we just heard, this idea that he didn't call 911. He's not the first and won't be the last defendant who has not called 911. Sometimes people get scared and freaked out and panic. It doesn't necessarily mean that they caused the death. In this case, he panicked because clearly he'd beat her up, and he was afraid that they may pin this on him. And that's the way the defense would present it, saying, you know what, he didn't really mean to kill her. He may have hit her, but there was really no intention to kill. And the reason he didn't call 911 or the cops is because he was afraid they're going to think that he did it. And that got him to the point of such a panic that he decided to conceal her death instead of reaching out to the cops.
Sure. Lara, how do you think that detective fared in terms of eliciting the right information from him?
I mean, he's doing a pretty decent job. He's asking him all the questions that I'm sure the jury's going to want to ask and is going to want to hear the answers to. One of the things that comes to my mind now is that it's very possible that this man was drunk himself. They'd been out for her birthday, so maybe his memory is also not very clear, and that can also explain some of the inconsistencies. But the detective is trying to meticulously go through the night and what happened, and he keeps coming back to some of his statements to kind of get him to say a little bit more. For example, when he says, hey, was it a little more violent than you described? He's trying to get him to make more and more admissions, and he's doing it slowly. And detectives have this habit of doing this, going over the same story over and over and over and over again to either get an admission or to get different versions of what happened, to get the defendant make inconsistent statements and then come back and use that against the defendant in a case.